And away we go. It is the Nightcap brought to you by Galactic Fried Chicken right here on BearcatJournal.com. www.galacticfriedchicken.com for everything Galactic, including delivery right to your front door, pretty much anywhere inside the 275 loop. Or head down to Dayton, Kentucky, Wednesday through Sunday, lunch and dinner, and get yourself some of that Galactic goodness. It is out of this world. All right, Aaron, let's get this show on the road. Didn't touch on it. We didn't do a nightcap last night because there was a content overload, and there was a lot for people to consume. Back at it today. First off, your thoughts. Number one recruit for the women in pretty much program history as 5-star, top 10, top 5, depending on where you look. Local recruit in 2025, Dee Alexander, announces her commitment to Katrina Merriweather and the women's basketball program.
I think first and foremost, anybody who's ranked that high that commits, whether local or national level, speaks volumes to the staff and what they're all about and the message that they're conveying to the recruits that they're bringing in, whether it be a transfer or an actual high school recruit. Right. Huge hat tip to Katrina Merriweather and her entire staff for landing not a big fish, but a whale. This is a whale. This is program changing. This shows that these things can happen at Cincinnati, right? Like we're not used to being the people who are at the top of the mountain.
I think that's a little overblown from Cincinnati fans that have taken abuse in every sport over the years, but I get your point. Yes.
I mean, we're more used to being kicked than raising our arms in victory.
Static said, we get kicked. It's a hard knock life.
But just huge hat tip to them. I think it's also, I don't know, just kind of a shift. Shows that this Big 12 thing was worth the wait. It is paying off in dividends. We're seeing the football team with people still want to talk about Scott Satterfield not knowing what he's doing, but he continues to pile up the highest recruits that this football team has ever seen, even after Luke Fickell was here and got them to a college football playoff. Basketball, you're seeing the best, top to bottom, the best team that has been put together in decades.
So I don't know about decades, but a while, definitely.
I guess I'm just saying, if you look at where they're ranked in their recruiting profiles, I get it. That's fine. That's all. I mean, if you're looking at statistics, that's one that you can go off of. Statistically speaking, recruiting wise, top to bottom, this roster is the best that they've had in decades. So I don't know, just happy to see where this is all going, and it's going to be a long wait, but we'll see what.
Yeah, it's April. We don't get any action until August. So,
but we'll see what she's able to put together in the transfer portal, and just excited to see what other things are on the horizon for the women's basketball team.
And some conversations I had today. The phones have been very active with recruits in 2025 for the women's program, that all of a sudden Cincinnati's popping off a little bit in their minds.
Weird.
Funny how that works. A little momentum, which the most impressive thing to me is you did this 1 year in. Like, you had 1 year to build this relationship with the girl the talent like that has never stayed home for this women's program. And I mean, they crushed it, and they get her in the fold, and now they get to reap the rewards of having a top 5 player sitting on your board. They're coming here, come play with her. So that's going to be the other fun part, is what kind of momentum do they have rolling through the summer? Sure. I think the women's coaches are out on the road this weekend, getting to watch prospects. So, yeah, I mean, you get
keep doing work. Keep doing work.
Instant gratification on the recruiting trail. So good for them. I think it's going to be fantastic to see the women's program with some momentum. And like I talked about, in terms of revenue sports, Nippert Stadium is pretty much sold out. Fifth Third Arena for the men's is pretty much sold out. If you could get a women's program where they're getting 7,000-8,000 people in the arena nightly, you've just created a revenue stream that has never existed at this university. So it's gonna be fun. You've got some stuff you want to talk about, so there we go. Have at it.
All right. First and foremost, there was a rule that the NCAA has put in place. It was being voted on today. I'm assuming that since we haven't heard anything, it went through as was expected. This was put out by an article by Heather Dinich on ESPN. The NCAA is approving new transfer rules allowing for immediate eligibility. It's going to allow undergrads to transfer and play immediately as long as they meet specific academic requirements, because, of course, we had to make sure that now we're worried about the student athlete and wanting to make sure, and it does make sense, but they're concerned that when you're transferring 3-4 times that your credits aren't all moving over. Are you even worried about graduating? Is being in school even at the forefront for these?
That's kind of the crux of all this, what they're allowing to happen and where this is all headed is why are people going to even be concerned with being a student anymore unless you put some guidelines in place that forces it to happen. And I think that was necessary as a restriction on transfers so that people are still being a student. Look, we know it's all somewhat of a sham. But guess what? A lot of these guys that aren't going to go professional in whatever their sport is, as the old NCAA commercial used to say, the ones that walk out with a degree are going to be glad that they have it. So I do like that there is at least some attempt to continue to keep the scholastic part of student athlete, which is a sham, keep some part of that intact.
Yeah, I mean, even just you just had Jameel Reynolds transfer to South Florida, and I think that would be a guy who you'd probably be looking at with a raised eyebrow, just in this being his fourth school in as many years, going from UCF to Temple to Cincinnati to South Florida.
Yeah.
Where are your credits standing currently? Are you in good standing as a student? And I think that would be something that you'd probably, at least, like I said, just I have no idea whether it's good or bad for him. I have no reason to believe it's bad, but just you'd raise an eyebrow and wonder, where are you at scholastically?
Right. A guy that's been in school for 5 years and he has 2 years worth of credits. You don't want to get to a point that'd be a mess. This is all headed.
Right. It'd be an absolute mess. And it honestly be a waste of the kid's time if you are truly worried about them as students in the student athlete portion of it.
Go ahead. I finished. I was just going to say, like, what's the point? If you've been at 4 schools in 4 years, guess what? You know where you're not going? The NBA.
I thought you were going to say the graduation ceremony.
Well, now at least there's an opportunity for that. But if you've been at 4 schools in 4 years, you are not tracking to the NBA. Let's just be honest here. So at least hopefully you're close to a diploma at that point.
Yeah.
Whether you get it or not, it is what it is.
The other story I wanted to discuss, this one probably a little bit more discussion. Virginia has passed a law that will allow schools to pay athletes for the NIL. They are the first state to allow schools to basically head the payment, where you wouldn't have to have a collective to pay students. This one is it's quite interesting because it's kind of paving the way potentially for national guidelines and employment, as it were. They are not entirely sure what to do about Title IX, and that's one of the concerns as they're looking at this thing as they go into it. There's also, I believe, six other states: South Carolina, Nebraska, Oklahoma, Illinois, Louisiana, and Mississippi that have pending legislation as well for the same thing. So you may see some states start to get out ahead of this, and if that's the case, you can only imagine all the other states, or at least the state-funded colleges, are going to be beating on that door, wanting to not let some of these other schools, especially down south in the SEC, get out ahead of them in the recruiting game.
I don't know. It's that part is very interesting, Aaron, because you know what schools don't want?
To pay kids.
They don't want to have to spend their money to pay the kids. So I actually wonder how much you'll see in the South if there is some pushback. Like, no. This is not how we want it to happen, because then they're going to be taking our checks. So I'm interested in that portion of it. Virginia, a little more progressive on that front. That part is going to be interesting to me. Does this spread into the South? Because if it does, then I wonder, is there going to be a way that they're going to try to then connect the collective to the university and make the collective part of the university, so then they can still use the collective money to pay the student athletes in these states? Like, essentially the collective becomes like damn it, the what you pay to, like, the school sponsored, why is the
Bagman?
name no the school sponsored, like the donor organization, UCATs.
Oh,
Jeez,
okay.
couldn't. So does Cincy Reigns become, like, is there a path where the collective then becomes much like the donor arm, where UCATS raises money for like infrastructure and facility upgrades and things like that, and then Cincy Reigns is connected to the university and is the one raising money to pay the players? I'm just thinking out loud. I don't know if that would happen or not. I don't know if that's even possible.
Well,
But
one of the things that they make note of here in the article is that they would be able to assist with contract review and negotiations
yes,
and financial management. So maybe you're not having an agent shave 20% off because you have the school aiding you in some of these deals. You're also making sure that these deals are actually legit and actually paying, instead of getting ripped off at the end or even halfway through, to where you thought you were coming for this and now you're coming for this. I think it also would assist in just not being lied to at all through any of this process, because now you have the
they'll
school
still
having,
be lies told.
sure, but I think now that you'd have the school having to stand on what it said, and you can, if you do have an agent, you can demand things in writing before you even go.
Yeah. The interesting part to all of this, Aaron, is, to me at least, at what point does collective bargaining become inevitable? And how does, in this landscape, how does collective bargaining work? Is it every school has their own players union? Is it every conference has a players union? Like, I don't think, nationally, I don't think it works, because there's too many people with too many different ideas that you're never going to get 500 or 350 or whatever D1 schools all on the same page to agree to a collectively bargained system. I think it's probably going to have to be at least conference specific, which then it gets wild if each conference has their own collective bargaining agreement. There's a lot still to unfold here, but today it's clearly a very interesting first step,
I'm
or
going
12th step, or however you want to look at it.
going back to Title IX, is this the end of Title IX or the beginning of the end of Title IX? Because I don't know that you can demand equal pay for women's athletics as an entire football team and the basketball team that is just more in the public eye. I think that that's going to be fascinating to see how you share equality as Title IX was written and intended financially from men's and women's sports. I'm sure you're going to have some schools that have high profile women's athletic programs, but I don't know that that's the case from school to school, even in some of the
Sure.
bigger conferences.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of talk about when all this goes down that Olympic sports are going to have to go away, or at least like go to the club route, or go do their own thing. So there is a ton of things that need to be worked out. Title IX, collective bargaining, employment, like insurance. Insurance is not cheap when you're talking about 4, 5, 600 student athletes at every school. There's a lot to come, and something like this in Virginia is another step towards whatever new is about to be upon us, probably within the next. The thing is, Aaron, it's happening so fast that I think within 5 years, we are at a place where we have the semblance of what next is going to look like. Right now, just everybody has their guns out.
Yeah.
And until we get people to like holster those bad boys. I talked about it last night, Aaron. There are just schools openly, they don't care anymore. There's no fear of repercussion. There are schools behind the scenes doing everything they can to get guys into the portal.
Sure.
7-figure deals.
Who's been in trouble for tampering at this point? Nobody.
Right. Nobody. And if they do bring up tampering, they'll just take you to court and win. And then the NCAA will have what? You mean I can't talk to an AAU coach? Of course I can. I'm allowed to do whatever I want.
Look what happened with Jim Harbaugh in Michigan and all of that mess, and all they got was a 3-year probation. Nothing vacated, no wins vacated, no championship vacated. Harbaugh's off to greener pastures in the NFL, and I'm happy that his successor doesn't have to deal with the shit show he left them. But I mean, it's all ridiculous. It's all ridiculous.
All right, we will see you sometime this weekend. I don't know. We'll see what happens. It's a nightcap brought to you by Galactic Fried Chicken right here on BearcatJournal.com.
See ya.